Back for another week of Central State A Conference football, Week 3. Todd, give us a headliner from Week 2.
I'm going to go with the one I saw in person, which was Colton Glazebrook. Had a
Big game.
Rochester record 40 carries for a not Rochester record 230 yards. It's about third on the list, I think. 2 touchdowns and was really the driving force in a fast-paced but ground-heavy attack that Jacksonville just really didn't have an answer for last week in a 46-14 win.
2 weeks in, what have we learned about Rochester? We think of Rochester as a finesse team, as a team that's going to – we talked last week, they're going to the ball be in the air a million times.
Yeah.
They can pound it, can't they?
They can. And in talking with Derek Leonard after the game, he said that the way the offense is set up this year, they don't have the mobile quarterback like they did last year. So whatever they do on the ground is going to be primarily Glazebrook's production.
We wondered after Week 1 how good Springfield High is. What did we find out when they had running clock on Glenwood?
Pretty darn good.
They're pretty darn good.
You saw that game. What was it? Basically a replay of how they went about beating Southeast?
Glenwood. That was a big play game against Southeast. This was more grinded out. This was more drives. This was more basic football. Glenwood got the opening kickoff. Roz Harris took it 69 yards to just about the 20. And the drive stalled, and it's almost like all the oomph went out of the Glenwood offense at that point. Bolden had a big game over 100 yards. Lonnie Lucas had a big game over 100 yards. They passed it when they had to. They forced turnovers. And you had an incredible statistic about Springfield High's possessions this year.
Yeah, they've scored 13 to 20 times. 2 of those they didn't score on were to run out the clock at the end of the games. And then they punted 3 times, not with Bolden in the game. And the other 2 drives they missed. One was a missed field goal at the end of the first half against Southeast when they were short of time, and the other one was a drive that stalled on down. So basically, they've scored touchdowns on drives where they've had normal-looking drives, scored touchdowns on all but one where they had time to score touchdowns. And the only one they didn't score on, they got down to the 10, the 15-yard line.
11-yard line. That's where it died. Yep.
So. They're just moving the ball really well right now, and Mike Taylor's, he was worried about taking over the defense, but they've been fine so far.
They've been very good. 2 undefeated teams otherwise in the conference. Springfield High, one of them. Taylorville beat Southeast at home. Taylorville had Lanphier and Southeast so far. They get tested this week. They go to Chatham.
They do, and they're gonna. I think from Glenwood's perspective, it's a must-win game.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're they're a team that's a perennial playoff contender, and fighting back from a three-loss hole is going to be tough. And like I said, this will be, I think, the toughest opponent Taylorville has faced, and how they respond is going to be big. And then, frankly, I think you're just going to see a lot better effort from Glenwood this time around. I think 2 subpar games for them is too many.
They've been talked to.
And, then they'll be anxious to take out that frustration on somebody else on Friday.
We kind of gloss over Sacred Heart Griffin like, ho-hum, they're undefeated again. But you've seen Sacred Heart Griffin. What they can run the ball. Their special teams are good. Typical, are they? Have they taken care of the quarterback situation, you think?
I think they're closer to getting there. I'd be really shocked if Pat Smith doesn't get a majority of the snaps, if not all of them, here at some point in the near future. For whatever reason, in both games, they've just looked more comfortable, and they've just moved the ball with him at quarterback. It's not to say that Connor Bland doesn't have the ability, but he just seems, from what I've seen, just a little bit hurried. He had a couple fumbles where he just maybe got ahead of himself last week.
Pressing maybe a little bit.
Yeah, and that could be it too, but they seem to move the ball. Defense, though, has been fantastic. Everybody saw, most everybody, judging by the crowd, saw what they did to Glenwood. But against Lanphier, Everett Clemens is a really dynamic back, 23 carries, 23 yards.
Yeah, it's not like
did
they
a
didn't
great
try.
job holding him down. And then, the 20 points is a little bit misleading if you saw the game, if you read the story. One touchdown was at the end of the game when it was decided. One came after a fumble deep in their own territory, and one came after Lanphier completed back-to-back tipped passes, covered 50 yards in 2 passes on balls that were tipped and probably should have been intercepted.
So we can't talk Central State A football without crediting Lincoln with its first win of the year. They've already got it. We don't have to credit them.
No.
But talk about Lincoln. You visited with some of the Lincoln kids this week. What's the feeling up there?
They're excited, and rightly so. Story coming out in Friday's SJR just about the dynamic between quarterback James Lassinger and now wide receiver Stephen Duncan, who was asked to move out wide last year late in the season after having his struggles at quarterback. But they're excited, and obviously so. And I think it's one of those things where they're just glad to have that weight off their shoulders. I think that they can win some more games. I know obviously it's going to Jacksonville, where they got just frankly torched last year, is a big thing, and it's going to be a tough test. But I think they got that weight off their shoulders. I think they can do some things now, which is the whole impetus behind switching quarterbacks. And I'd be shocked if they don't get another 1 or 2 wins more this season.
Week 3 of the Central State 8 is what's coming up now, and we're not going to tease you too much, but next week it's the Leonard Bowl, and we're going to talk all about it. Rochester and SHG, that'll be next week. But for now, go out and catch a Central State 8 football game.